So, for those of you who are not on the West Coast right now, the Pacific Northwest, as well as California, much of us are covered in wildfire smoke from the different wildfires that have been burning this week. And so today I thought, what a perfect time to talk about lung health and respiratory health and things that we can all do, considering that in addition to this wildfire smoke that we are trying not to breathe, we still have COVID around, and we still have, we're being cautious about who we're interacting with and where we're going. And so I know a lot of people have concerns regarding, okay, if I have to evacuate, where do I go? How do I stay safe with COVID? All that. So I thought today would be a great time to talk specifically about protecting yourself from wildfire smoke and all of the things you can do as you're in your home from things that you just have around. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to all of you who have joined, and feel free to participate within the chat panel. If you're on here on Zoom, you have any questions, please. This is way more fun for all of us if it's interactive. And so please do feel free to shoot chats into the chat section and or raise your hand if you want to be unmuted, and we can chat in person. So welcome. This is Tune Into Your Body, episode 21 or 2. I always say I'm going to keep track, and I don't. Anyway, episode 21 or 22, Tune Into Your Body, the weekly free webinar from me. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, and I'm coming to you today from my basement. I just looked in the screen and thought, whoa, I have some patterns between my shirt, my chairs, and my curtains. Goodness. Stimulating for your eyes. So here I am in my basement with my air purifier going next to me, trying to stay cool and trying not to breathe the stinky smoke. So let's talk about how we protect ourselves from this smoke, from no matter where you are. And also, let me just say, because in naturopathic medicine, I'm focused on symptoms, not necessarily diagnosis. As I talk about lung health today, and I'm spinning it from the wildfire smoke issue or topic, don't discount it if you're not in a smoky area. If we're talking about lung and respiratory protection, that applies to colds and flus and dry air, and to some extent asthma. I'll put a couple of caveats in here about asthma. And so with a naturopathic medical lens, I just have to know what types of symptoms we're looking at in order to be able to guide the treatment. I don't have to always know the why or the cause. I can really try to support the symptoms and try to support what the body's doing. So first, with any irritant, whether it is allergens from fall pollen that's coming out, or if it's wildfire smoke, we want to obviously minimize our exposure as much as we can. So now that means we're staying inside. If you live in an older home, as we do, it might even mean that you put damp towels at the base of your drafty doors and windows to really prevent just with these high winds lately. You live in an older home and you can hear the windows rattle and air is coming in. I don't know about you, but we have noticed that our desks and our tables are just covered with a fine layer, because even as good as we've been about doing these things, it still comes in, right? We live in an old drafty house. So stay protected. Try to keep the outdoors out, and your indoor air dust-free and purified. And that's really where air purifiers come in. We have resisted getting an air purifier for decades. And this summer, I'd been seeing patients from here, my basement, since COVID, and I was finding just the dankness of the basement was really getting to me. And so thankfully, about a month or 6 weeks or something like that ago, we invested in an air purifier, and it's been handy. Thankfully, it's portable. We got, one that's for a smaller area, not necessarily an entire house. And we're able to just take it up to the bedroom this week, and we have the air purifier running in the bedroom at night, and that really helps prevent us from waking up feeling cruddy and full of crud in our sinuses, both because we've been breathing in crud and also because our body in its wisdom creates more mucus. So let's talk about that. Why do we get mucusy? Why do we get stuffed up in our sinuses? Why do we get kind of mucusy and coughing in our throat and our our lungs, our lower respiratory? So for those of you who were on the call when I talked about the small intestine, when we were talking about digestive function, I talked about microscopically, the lining of the small intestine looked like little finger-like projections. And on every finger-like projection were more little finger-like projections. And on each of those tiny finger-like projections, we had little hairs or cilia. Similar to that mechanism, the little cilia, we have our mucosal membranes of our sinuses and our lungs are lined with all of these tiny little hairs. Their job is to detect things and then in a very organized way, move them like a caterpillar moves, but move whatever's irritating, a little particle of allergen or a particle of ash from the wildfire, along the cilia up and out. And what assists with that is mucus. Think of how slugs and snails move. It's on a slime layer. Your cilia has an excellent job at moving things up and out with the assistance of mucus. So, minimizing irritants is step one, but to help your cilia and your mucus work best to escort things out of the body, being hydrated is a really important part. So you can hydrate through warm broths, which we know warm also thins mucus. So warm broths and teas, or plain old straight water does the trick. I have a sneeze coming. Oh, sorry, excuse me. So staying hydrated really helps the cilia and the mucus continue. So there's also a supplement that is called N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, that is known as a mucolytic. Lytic meaning breaking, muco meaning mucus, so breaking mucus apart. So NAC as a mucolytic provides sulfur to the mucus, which helps to break some of the bonds that make mucus thick and sticky. And when you can add a sulfur contributing food or supplement like NAC to your body, you then have the ability to keep your mucus thin and flowing. That doesn't mean you still shouldn't think about staying hydrated and encouraging your mucus to be thin and mobile from your hydration. But for those of us who tend to be thick, sticky mucus people, whether we get a cold or a sinus infection, we know if we're a thick, sticky mucus person, NAC often comes in handy. It also has an affinity for the lungs. So taking NAC helps us stay thinner in mucus, healthier in lungs, and it also helps us regenerate one of our powerful antioxidants, glutathione. And so if we are going to be smoke damaged through inhalation, it helps us to be high in antioxidants. So minimizing your exposure to the irritant, whether it be the wildfire smoke or the pollen, because it's fall pollen season, depending on where you live, and staying indoors and minimizing that exposure and staying hydrated so that you can help your cilia, the little hairs that help things get to the surface and expelled, and your mucus work well. Sometimes hydration needs a little bit of boost. That's where something like NAC can come in to thin your mucus to help it flow. Another way to do that through food is, first I want to actually direct you to an Instagram post that a peer of mine made. So Dr. Orna Isaacson, her Instagram is dr.orna, Dr. Orna, and she is an amazing botanical medicine queen. And so herbs are her go-to, similar to the way food is my go-to. And so Orna made a fabulous post, I think it was 2 days ago, that talked a lot about the herbs that are associated with lung health, with helping this cilia and mucus. And she also made a video for today, I think, that she posted on Instagram that talks about certain teas that have these particular herbs in them to help with the respiratory tract. And so if you like herbs, if you want to play with plant medicine, then please do check out Dr. Orna and learn from her. So in addition to the herbal and the botanical medicine that she talks about, which I think is incredibly effective, very targeted, but not always accessible for someone who might be, you know, a normal, average, standard American person who is stuck at home right now during the wildfires and doesn't have access to the plants that she mentions. So let's talk about some foods that have similar properties. And so, excuse me. Let me just, before I jump into there, let me just say welcome for all of you who have just joined. I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White, licensed naturopathic doctor, and this is your weekly webinar, Tune Into Your Body, where we explore all ways that we can make choices every day to increase your health. And today we're talking about lung and respiratory tract health because those of us on the West Coast are really aware that there are wildfires, and many of us are breathing in smoke to some extent or another based on those wildfires. And so I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about how to support yourself from home. So stay in, stay hydrated, thin your mucus through teas, broths, and possible NaC as a supplement. Actually check with your doctor for dosing, of course. And check out Dr. Orna, dr.orna, on Instagram, because she's made a couple of excellent videos that talk about plant medicine and botanical medicine to support all of these lung functions in the last few days. So let's talk about food and hydrotherapy for the respiratory tract support. And so when we talk about wanting to stay hydrated, to really make sure that the cilia and the mucus can keep flowing, we can also help soothe and hydrate irritated, dry tissue. If you imagine healthy, moist tissue, the cilia can freely flow, the mucus can coat it all, and it's one happy system. If you imagine dry, cracky skin, the cilia aren't going to be free moving because they're attached to dry, cracky skin, mucous membranes. And so we want to make sure that our fat intake is adequate so that we have supple skin. We want to make sure that we're digesting well so that we're absorbing and utilizing that fat. And there are things called demulcents that it's like adding salve to a cut. So it increases that kind of polysaccharide slime layer that is coating and soothing. So one thing that I go to for a polysaccharide slime layer are oats. Now, most of us may have made oats in our lifetime where we put a cup of oats in 2 cups of water and we cook it and all the water gets sucked into the oats and the oats get softened, and there you go, you have oatmeal. Well, have you ever considered adding 4 cups of water to that same 1 cup or ½ cup of oats? And what you'd end up with are obviously really soft oats, but what I'm more interested in this case is the slippery, cloudy liquid, the oat broth, that is made when you make oats with an abundance of water and less oats. And that oat broth contains a demulcent. So if you touch it, it will feel slippery. And that's because it coats and soothes. So if you were to drink that, you're really soothing that internal mucous membrane to help keep things lubricated and moving through. One of the other fabulous demulcents is honey. And so there are lots of great studies regarding honey being more effective for a cough than cough medicine and less side effects. And so you can use that, just a half teaspoon of honey in your tea or off a spoon, that's really going to, again, soothe and moisten your respiratory tract so that you feel more protected and you're less dry, cracky, and vulnerable. The other thing with the honey is, if you are an allergy sufferer and you're interested in this particular webinar based on the pollen aspect instead of the wildfire smoke aspect, then you'll be interested to know that there's research that if you consume a teaspoon or more a day of local honey, local defined as harvested within a 50-mile radius of your place of being, then that honey contains little teeny amounts of the pollen that can be found in that area. And if you start that 2 weeks or so before your typical allergy season, most people find relief. And it's like a little bit of homeopathy, or a little bit of like those allergy desensitization shots, where your body takes a little bit of the pollen in every day for 2 weeks and mounts a teeny response. So by the time the full-blown pollen reaction would be happening in your environment, your body's already kind of ramped up a little and said, I got this. I don't have to react so much. I've been exposed to this for the last 2 weeks. So not only is honey an excellent demulcent, but also honey can help you, if it's local, with decreasing your allergy symptoms in the season in which you take it on a daily basis. And it's yummy. For those of you who don't know about onion honey, you can go to my YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there, and find my onion honey video. I made a demo of how to make onion honey, and it is just as it sounds. It's a sliced organic onion covered with honey, sat on the counter for a day or so, and then refrigerated until it's gone. You get the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties from the onion. You get quercetin from the onion, which is a natural stabilizer of the cells that irritate people who are allergenic people. And so the quercetin extracted from the honey is going to help stabilize and make you less reactive with your allergies. And some people think honey is way too sweet. And by making onion honey, they both mellow. The onions aren't quite so pungent and the honey isn't quite so sweet. And so then when you eat the honey out of the onion honey preparation, it gives you the demulcent or the coating soothing effects of the honey. It gives you the anti-allergy properties if you're using local honey. It gives you the anti-inflammatory, the mast stabilizing, which is the anti-allergy, and the antioxidants of the honey. It's a match made in heaven. So please do go to YouTube and check out my onion honey video if you've never made it before. Now is a perfect time. Wildfire, smoke, or pollen, either one. So the last section I want to talk about, so we've talked about minimizing your exposure, staying hydrated, making sure your mucus is flowing, coating and soothing your tissue with demulcents. So now let's talk about hydrotherapy. So I like to be able to support people when they're at home with what they have at home, and hydrotherapy is perfect for that. So let's break it down. Hydro is using water. Therapy is a way that we can, as a treatment modality. And so using water to help stimulate the body to heal. Like anything else that I do, it's not about making your body do anything. It's about supporting your body and increasing what your body is trying to do already. So using hydrotherapy often requires contrast. So a hot, a cold, and sometimes it's just alternated, and that's just called contrast hydrotherapy. An example of that might be If you have a swollen body part, let's talk about a swollen ankle. You may have twisted it, or you may just have poor circulation. For whatever reason, you have a swollen ankle. If you do 3 minutes of hot, 30 seconds of cold, times 3 rounds, so hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, that's 1 session, and you do that 3 times a day, you're going to drain the swelling from your ankle. Well, why? Anytime you put a hot something on your body part, on your ankle, when you are exposed to hot, all your capillaries and your blood vessels open and freely flow. So you're drawing circulation to that area. Then, when you switch to cold for that 30 seconds, everything goes, because it's cold, and it squeezes and it pushes everything out of that area. When you switch back to hot, it draws everything back in. So why is this helpful? Well, think about blood as being a delivery source of oxygen and fresh nutrition. So every time you increase circulation to an area, you're bringing in nourishment. When you then constrict and push everything out, that is helping any inflammatory components that have been formed in that area, instead of getting stuck there and like domino affecting, stuck in that little area, you're pushing them out, which A, prevents it from getting stuck and overinflamed in that one area and your body's not paying attention, and B, gets your body paying attention. If you have these inflammatory markers that are coming out of your ankle into greater circulation, your body's going to say, oh, hey, what's going on down there? We need to pay attention. So contrast hydro, again, is just that. It's alternating hot and cold, hot and cold. So now that's the general contrast hydro for whatever ails you. Now let's take that and specifically apply it to the respiratory tract in a couple of ways. One is warming socks. Again, head over to my YouTube, subscribe while you're there, and find my warming socks video. If you can't find it, I mean, there's only a couple dozen videos, a few dozen maybe at this point, but if you can't find it, let me know, but it's there. And so warming socks is a way to warm your feet before bed, put cold, wet cotton socks on your feet covered with wool socks, and then you go to bed. And all night long, this vascular pump happens. When your feet are warm, all the vasculature in your feet are nice and open. You put the cold socks on and they go cold and push all the blood up into your body. 80% of your immune system is located in your core. So every time you're passing your blood through your core, you're filtering your blood through your immune system so your body can pay attention. And then those capillaries in your feet can't stay closed forever. So they open and they draw circulation down to your feet. Now notice I started up here, draw circulation down to your feet, helping to drain any stagnation that might have happened in your head, in your sinuses, in your lungs overnight. All night long, that vascular pump happens. For kids, you can call them magic socks because they're so magic. They unclog your stuffiness. They help you prevent a cold. They help you minimize the effects of the cold. They help prevent that stagnation, that thickening of your mucus. Nothing thick is good. Keeping it thin and moving, that's where hydrotherapy excels. So these warming socks are fabulous. One question that came in through chat is, can you do hydro in the shower? And yes, a perfect example, thank you, Pete. A perfect example of doing contrast hydro is at the end of your warm shower, turn it to cold and stand under and allow it to run through your back, through your front, get your legs. Now, for those of you like myself who think, ooh, cold, I can't. And truthfully, like I cannot do it. That doesn't mean full cold. Full cold are for really brave, hardy people. I'm not a super brave, hardy person. So I just go as cold as I can take it. Cold enough that I think, ooh, but not full cold that would just, that's too much for me. I have peers who swear by ice baths and cold showers, just no hot at all, just cold. Totally not my thing. So using any level of hydrotherapy, whether it's warming socks, contrast hydro, is all about increasing your circulation, increasing your immune system's paying attention, decreasing stagnation and thickening, keeping us moving and healthy and paying attention. So a couple minutes, one little section before we end. First of all, just thank you for attending today. This is Tune Into Your Body, my weekly webinar, and I'm Dr. Wendy Lee White. Now, don't go away yet. Couple things left to talk about. One is if you have a lot of lung stagnation, there are two things that we can talk about. One is garlic that is raw has an amazing capacity to open the lungs. So if someone has asthmatic tendencies, I recommend that they work with their prescribing physician to have a rescue inhaler on hand, and that I'm not saying that this replaces a rescue inhaler. However, if someone is feeling tightness in their chest, when you squeeze a clove of garlic into a glass of hot water and add some honey to make it a little more palatable and drink it, the lungs will really bronchodilate, which is open, and increase the ability to breathe. Now, if someone is having a full asthmatic attack, this will buy them some time in order for them to get the care that they need. For someone who doesn't have asthma, but who might be feeling some chest tightness from inhaling smoke, opening up those airways and allowing them to breathe would be helpful. Now, this isn't the only symptom, because when you open up those airways, it might allow the irritants to get deeper into the lungs. So we still have to work on increasing mucus expelling of all of those irritants. But this can be a short-term, urgent emergency fix for someone who really needs that help. The second thing that's an option for either bronchitis or any deep lung cough is doing a mustard poultice. And I don't think I've done a YouTube video on poultices, but basically a poultice is taking a kitchen cloth or cheesecloth or some fabric that is somewhat porous and putting warm something in the middle of it and then applying it to a certain area of the body. For a mustard poultice for the lungs, you take mustard powder, which is just ground mustard seed. You could use prepared mustard from the fridge in a pinch, but there's vinegar and all sorts of other things in there that might be irritants. To do a pure mustard poultice, you just have ground mustard seed powder. And so you make a paste with warm water with the mustard seed, and you apply it either, it's not recommended to apply it directly to the skin because it can be burning if you leave it on too long, and that could be hard to wash off. So open your cloth, apply the paste to one side of the cloth, fold it, and then snuggle with it. Apply a hot water bottle, or it's summer and you're warm, so all your pores are open, and apply this mustard poultice to the front of your body. And don't forget, you can access your lungs via the back as well. So always treat both sides and leave the mustard poultice on each side until the skin begins to look reddish. Now, again, if you leave it on too long, you can burn your skin with the mustard. It's that strong. But what you're doing is you're increasing circulation. Same thing as the contrast, same thing as the magic socks or warming socks. You're increasing the circulation to this area to thin your mucus, to bring in fresh oxygen, to bring in antioxidants and nourishment, and help the inflammation drain out. So that mustard poultice can be done on the front and the back of the lungs. If you don't have ground mustard, you can also do contrast hydrotherapy to the front and the back of your lungs with a very, very hot compress or washcloth, and then an ice cold washcloth, 30 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold, 3 rounds. So we are here to support you. I want to get us all through this crazy world that keeps getting crazier. Today and this week, my focus is on wildfire smoke and keeping us healthy through this process. I hope that you learned something that was helpful. Check out Dr.Orna on Instagram and look at her botanical medicine for lung support videos. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there, find my warming socks video. I feel like there was another video. Anyway, and let me know how else I can be of service to you. So one thing I excitedly said that I was launching last week was my 12-week Tune Into Your Body course that launches at the end of this month, this September. And I would like you to remember that living well and learning how to support your body in the world that we live in does not have to be torturous. It can be very simple, very easy, especially when you're supported. So in the 12 weeks of the course, we will go over all my 5 essentials: nourish, move, connect, choose, and balance, and some subsets in each of them. And each week, you will learn more about your physiology as it pertains to that topic. And I encourage every participant to only choose 1 or 2 items to really be mindful about for that week. This isn't about upending your life and recreating your world in a short term where, a lot of these like 30-day dietary cleansing program things, you're so hyper focused on 10 to 15 hours a week in food prep that all other aspects of your life fade away. That's not the case with this program. This program requires that you're mindful on 1 or 2 things each week. And when we come together at the beginning of each session, we will share as a group what we chose, what challenged us, how we got through it, what we need help with, and we'll brainstorm and become a community to support natural living that's in alignment with our physiologies. What would it be like to end 2020 more resilient than you started? Now, that's not a small task, right? This has been a tough year for everyone. But what would it be like to live in the way that you used to live before you started feeling cruddy? That's what you can do with the Tune Into Your Body program. 12 weeks of group support, access to me, and baby steps to make changes in our lives that help us to be healthier with less effort. We're designed to be healthy. We're designed to work really, really well. The more we live in authentic reflection of our design and our physiology, the easier it is, the less effort it requires to live well. So thank you again for joining. Hopefully you will tune in next week as well. If you have any comments about what you'd like to hear a weekly live webinar about, please do message me through however you can message me: email, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And consider spreading the word about my Tune Into Your Body 12-week course that launches at the end of this month so that the community can be strong and vital, just like its participants. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a lovely week. Take care of yourselves. If I can help guide that care in any way, please do be in touch. And I will see you here, same time, same location, next Thursday. Take care, all.